LT,
What's going on?
what's going on, man? Should we look directly to the cameras and tell them what we're doing right now?
I mean, we can.
I mean, who should start, me or you?
Go
I'm
for
excited
it, man.
about this one.
You the host. It's your crib.
All right. By the way, we're in my basement, the man cave, pool table in the background. We got, paintings or replicas of some paintings, and we got some plaques. Some boxing plaques, some NBA. Anyways, cut to the chase. If you are watching this right now, you're watching episode 1 of Who's Fighting. So let's explain to them what Who's Fighting is. Like, we just woke up randomly and decided to do this Who's Fighting thing. So LT, take it on.
Absolutely. So what you have here are two fight fanatics. Maybe Strap more so than me.
I would say, man, it's tied. It's tied on this one.
And so when we get together, we watch the fights, we watch the pay-per-views, and it's almost like we're doing our own commentating. We can watch it on mute, really.
Absolutely. Everyone is like, yo, get a show, man. We want to watch the fight. You don't have to talk about records, who that boogeyman is, and all that extra stuff, So, I mean, this manifested from all that.
Absolutely.
I mean, to be honest, the naysayers, the people that may watch this that are deeply rooted in the sport of combat, fighting, we are pretty much casual fans, and we are talking to the casual onlooker of these good gladiators, this gladiator sport that we sit down and love and watch and pay for. So without further ado, let's talk about how we started. How did we get this? Okay, each of us, we have to talk about how did we get this love for combat sports, and I'll start with you, man.
Absolutely. So me being a youth, I spent a lot of time with my uncles. One in particular, though, he would always get the pay-per-views. Roy Jones Jr.
Oh yeah.
Mike Tyson.
Oh yeah.
Every single time they fought. And then there was another one by the name of Ken Shamrock.
Okay.
And so that was my early introduction to combat sports.
Wow. That goes back to like the 90s.
Going back to the 90s, I'm talking about when you would pay $40. $40 was a lot. $30-$40. Man, I paid $40 for the Tyson fight.
That was a lot.
And he knocked him out in the first round.
Is that back like in 96 when Tupac was in Vegas?
So somewhere thereabout.
I remember like people went in and then just as soon as they were getting their seats to locate their seats, the fight was done.
Exactly. And so it was kind of a thing, like everybody wanted to see Tyson fight, but at the same time it's like, man, I don't want to pay the $40 to see him knock him out in the first round.
Yeah.
And then so with the Ken Shamrock era, it was a, how do I say this? It was just new. And there were less rules back then.
Hell yeah, man. You'll find a heavyweight fighting like a middleweight. Like they have no weight categories back then in the. By the way, we were talking about mixed martial arts. Right. And I think you're talking about the UFC.
Exactly.
In particular.
Yeah, if that's what it was called back then.
UFC has been around for a while.
I mean, we have people fighting in gis.
Yeah.
Like you don't see that in the UFC anymore.
The Gracies, the grapplers that came and changed and shook up the UFC.
Man.
Because they brought the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It was something about the blood and the gore. And I remember they wouldn't even bring it to this state.
Yeah. I mean, that was the fun part about the UFC in the beginning because it just replicated a street fight. Everybody had different styles. It wasn't like, we are all of the same cloth. Like we are all boxers, we are all taekwondo, or we are all Muay Thai people, or kickboxers. Like this was okay, this is Mortal Kombat. Like we grew up in the Mortal Kombat generation where Jax fights, this guy, or Liu Kang fights this guy, or Street Fighter. It's pretty much Street Fighter. Really.
One of the things that sticks out to me is like Ken Shamrock used to wear these ugly brown little trunks, like trousers.
Right, I remember that.
Ugly brown. And like this was like the main attraction.
Yeah,
I don't know, that was just funny to me.
He was a brute, man. He was vicious. And talking about King Shamrock, weirdly, I discovered him through WWF or WWE. I don't know, it switches. Right. I used to be an avid watcher of the WWE, and I love.
Me too. Yeah.
I love the entertainment factor. I knew it was fake, but they had so much charisma. They knew how to create a villain. They knew how to create a hero.
Right.
The heel, that aspect and that dynamic, which, fast forwarding to today, where most fighters are good fighters, but they don't know how to sell the fight because they don't know how to play that role. And people like Floyd mastered that,
Oh man, the heel. Being the heel, or, being the good guy, being a Tyson Theory, fighting depression and all these other things, and being a motivation guy, that, the Rocky story, uphill battle, and you in there, and you in the trenches, and everybody just ready to like lift you on to that next level. Right.
Going back to the initial question, I got to talk about my intro. My introduction to combat sports. I mean, just like him. I mean, we come from the same generation, babies from the 80s, raised by the 90s. Figured it out in the 2000s, and then kind of learning how to master ourselves and our understandings in the 2010s and leading up to right now. So if you came from that generation, from the 80s to the 90s, we know about the three Mikes. We know about Mike Tyson, Michael Jackson, and Michael Jordan.
Absolutely.
It was culture. These were iconic figures that they were just bigger than their sport, and they transcended through everything, and they infiltrated art. And I caught the tail or the beginning or the middle end of Mike Tyson. I mean, I could not tell you about Buster Douglas fighting him in Japan because I was too young, but I remember him leaving the prison when he had done his time or his bid for the alleged rape case, and coming back and coming back to who he is. I am Mike.
Right.
And I won't lie to you. I've never seen a more exciting, more scary. He was the baddest man. That was his nickname, the baddest man. The baddest man on the planet. And that pulled me into boxing because where I came from, the fights, because of time zones, were a little late. So they would be aired, like if they're fighting around 10 over here, it would be like in the morning over there. So a lot of them happened through people recording VHSs, and we didn't have the internet. So you record it on a VHS and you watch it the next day. And I won't lie to you, that brought me to the sport. But my initial exposure to boxing was Muhammad Ali, of course, because he, just like the other three Mikes, was also a culture iconic figure, bigger than boxing.
Right, larger than life. And I'm from Uganda. If you didn't know, I'm from Uganda. We are neighbors to the Zaire. Right now it's the Democratic Republic of Congo. And Tyson had an iconic fight, which was quote unquote Monica, the Rumble in the Jungle, him versus George Foreman. And there was a famous chant, Ali Boumaye, which is Ali in Lingala, means Ali kill him. And that video recording, my dad used to play it I remember this year, 1992. And I was like, dog, I've never seen in my life a person go through so much pain to just win. Because he looked like Foreman was hurting him. But I don't know. It's just, now recollecting that, it reminded me the strength of mental fortitude. But anyway, fast forwarding, Mike Tyson introduced me to combat sports, and then of course I'll talk about entertainment like wrestling, and then UFC. I discovered it later on and just fell in love with it, with people like Anderson Silva, talk about Bones Jones, and now the Israel Adesanyas of the world. And it has definitely morphed into something more technical.
Yeah.
And so, whereas I would consider myself one of, a OG as far as fandom goes, with all the new technicalities, I'm a casual fan as that relates to it, because Strap is way more knowledgeable as far as the holds and the techniques.
I mean, you would say that, but because I'm one of those weird people that dives into the rabbit hole. Like, YouTube is my greatest friend and my greatest enemy, because I can be the greatest productive person watching video after video how to do stuff, or I could procrastinate. So I watch one Mike Tyson video and then I end up watching Roberto Duran's whole fight catalog, or watching, Sugar Ray's whole fight catalog, or watching, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, R.I.P., whole fight catalog. I'm one of those weird people that just dives into the rabbit hole and find myself at the end of the day just sitting for 8 hours just watching stuff, because for some reason all my knowledge in boxing, a lot of it is revisionist. I was never there watching these fights. I mean, I watched the fights of today and the few, like 12 years back, but a lot of it is revisionist. I had to go back and see what the hype was. Rocky Marciano, Jack Johnson.
But it's also, in the same essence, Mike Tyson was the same way, because he's seen who he saw, but he's a student of the sport, and he can tell you about all the classics, all the legends before him. And so that's all we are as fans, is we weren't there to witness it firsthand, but thankfully it's recorded and we can go back and revisit that history.
Yeah, man. So going through your Rolodex of fights, your catalog of fights that you've seen and stored, let's talk about some of your favorite fights. Like, what right now makes the hair in the back of your head like stand up? No homo, no pause. I mean, we are just talking as enthusiastic fight lovers. Like, what, like right now, if you had the remote to that TV over there, what fight would you put? And we will all be like, yo, they went to war.
Right off the top, to my childhood, I'm going to Gotti Ward. Any of them, just off the top of my head. I think about the trilogy. I don't know if they fought a fourth time. I'm sure it was 3 though. I know 3 for certain, and those were wars, and those come straight to my mind.
Any revisionist fights that you had to go back and watch and be like, yo, I understand the hype?
Here's one that's kind of recent. Is I like the Maidana versus Mayweather, the first one.
I'll tell you that was it was a debatable fight. I heard people talking otherwise about that fight.
That's why it was a split decision. Was it a split decision?
It was probably Floyd Mayweather's first split decision.
I think it was a split decision.
We can fact check. That's a good thing about Google. But I remember,
because I remember them reading the score off. It was the NBA playoffs.
I had friends in the house watching that fight, and some people thought Madonna won that fight.
I remember
people thought Madonna got.
I thought he got ahead. I thought he got ahead on rounds, being the busier fighter,
and that's why Floyd had to run that back.
Right, and
it was a MD.
Majority decision.
Yeah, it was an MD.
Yeah, because there was no draw, so it's majority decision.
Yeah. So, but check this out. That was a war because we personally, besides when he fought Mosley, was the first time I saw Floyd Mayweather pretend to be like not, wobbly. I saw him got wobbled. He got hit with that overhand that kind of had him doing a little bit of the stanky leg at the end of I don't know which round. And I was like, oh, this is a dogfight. Because the looks that Floyd was trying to, because Floyd is the type of fighter, from my opinion, Floyd is the type of fighter that feel somebody out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think he felt Madonna too much in that fight. And that's why the second fight, he he didn't put he pressed him.
He already had the cliff notes from the first fight.
But like he was filling Madonna out too much. Madonna was countering so good, and we know Floyd for being one of the greatest counter punches, defensive, whatever. Give him all that. He's arguably the greatest of all time.
I wouldn't even give Madonna that much credit as far as counter. I think he was just chopping wood
because he was getting hit. He was getting hit, but that overhead was always catching Floyd where he wanted to catch him.
I'll give you that.
He's a counter puncher in a way that Floyd is a pull, miss, and Madonna was more absorb. Boom, we both gonna get hit. It's like, you know,
we're gonna trade and see
like
which one is worse.
And Madonna's head is all down. You can't read his movements. And,
right.
He's kind of like he's pushing you in corners. He's what he did to AB. He did to AB. And that's the first time I knew he was a problem.
And another young fighter that reminds me of him at a heavier weight class.
Who are you talking about?
David Benavidez. But he's more calculated.
You love Benavidez.
I do.
You've been talking about him for a minute.
I do, man.
I like him. I just want to see more fights.
He just goes forward.
I want to see more fights.
He's like a classic running back that just doesn't go too side to side. He just gets north and south on you.
So let's talk about that style, the pressing style. Mm-hmm. How many fighters do you see having an expanded career with that style? And I could talk about some fighters, my favorite fighters. And we'll end this whole thing with, you know, our top 10 and top 5 of all time. But I have some fighters that have that style that had a pretty you know, long career. But tell me about that style and how long can a boxer maintain taking all that type of
in present day
hitting and not
depends on what weight class they're in. Once you get up to those heavier weight classes, somebody's gonna set you up. And it can happen at the lower weight classes too.
Yeah.
But especially in those higher weight classes. When you're a smaller fighter, it's easier to kind of be a bulldog and bully your way through there. But
okay, this is a good boxing argument. Who do you think has the longest careers, the smaller fighters or the bigger fighters? Because I have something that will kind of like confuse you right now. But who do you think has the longer career? We talk about heavyweights and middleweights and even something smaller than that.
So I see the bigger guys being less busy, being less active on, you know, around the calendar.
Right.
I think the smaller guys can get more fights in. Today's standards is 3 is a lot for 1 year. You look at somebody like pound for pound right now is Canelo. Mm-hmm. He fights two dates that he has in the year that he specifically likes to fight on.
Oh yeah. You talking about activeness. I'm talking about
career wise,
mother nature,
and that's the thing, right? So a smaller weight fighter can be active more throughout a year, and so therefore they may have a shorter career linear wise, but you pack more fights in.
Exactly, because I was thinking in my mind, heavy to me, all the heavyweight fighters get better as they get older. Mm-hmm. Smaller fighters get worse as they get older because they get slower and they get caught. Mm-hmm. You know, heavyweight fighters. Everybody, you know, heavyweight fighters don't jump. They sit through their punches, right? So they're not, how do I say this? I see George Foreman coming out and, you know, becoming champ. They become champ at 40?
50.
So like you cannot, B-Hop is an anomaly. And he's not that small too. Mm-mm. He's not that small. But like the smaller fighters are faster, more accurate.
Right.
So if you age, that's why I like looking at a prime. That's why we respect Floyd Mayweather so much, or a Pacquiao so much, because you're fighting people who knock your head off at these are gunslingers. You know, while heavyweights, it's a slow setup. It's, you know, heavy hand people. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have the anomaly like Deontay Wilder, who's electrifying, but I could see a smaller fighter not having a long career. You could put in as many fights. You could be busy.
Right.
But the thing is this. You fight the younger dudes. The younger dudes are always going to be the champs in the small in the lower weights.
Right.
But the heavier fighters, you look at the Klitschko brothers. They just got better and better after Lennox Lewis whooped that A. And that was like a lesson. That was like Canelo getting beat by Mayweather. And when Klitschko lost to Lennox, he just got better and just got better and got better and got better. And then, you know, politics. I don't know what he's doing now, but his brother does politics.
His brother, yeah.
But
his brother lost to Chris Bird first.
Yeah. So like heavyweights just get better. And that's why I hate when people talk bad about Deontay Wilder. He's not, I mean, he's 34, 35. He's
young in the sport. Like,
yeah, for that weight category. He's not
for in the sport in general though, because he was a basketball player, correct?
Well, he's been a boxer since he was 22, 23. He's about 34, so he's about 10 years in. 10 years, 12 years in. Yeah, you're right. He's probably young compared to a Fury born in a gypsy family and all that. He says, I'm a fighting man. So yeah, you're right. But he has something that is God-given. That, you know, sometimes like when you have hops, you never work on your jumper. And that will put you in places that, you know, well, Steph Curry, you know, got to work on that jumper. Like this guy could dunk.
Maybe it's just part of the basketball attitude that's causing him to have this reaction to losing as a recent.
Oh man, we're gonna talk about this. Okay.
We don't have to. We can talk. That could be another episode.
Who's fighting, man? Like this. Let's talk about it, man. This is Who's Fighting show, and we'll talk about anything. This is not. Okay, I'll give you my honest opinion. You start with the water was contaminated or something. There was sabotage where his trainer or somebody was working. And okay, cool. You got rid of your trainer, a classic ex-champion.
Right, world champion.
Okay, cool. In initial, the suit was too heavy. My legs were weak. Okay. 3. He loosened his glove and he was getting me with straight knuckles. Son, we got to come to a conclusion. Like, it's okay. It's your first L. Learn from it. You know what? Old dude went to the Emmanuel Stewart camp. You know who Emmanuel Stewart used to train?
Detroit.
Detroit's very own.
Right.
Do you know that style? That's the pressing style. That's the style like that. This is when you bully the bully, and the bully the bully doesn't want to get bullied.
Right.
And sometimes when the bully hits you with his greatest punches, and it doesn't work, and you press it, then it gets to the mind. It gets to the point like, okay, I've done the best. Most people go down with these shots. And that's when panic mode happens. I've never seen. And I think that's what Tyson Fury realized in the first fight. I'd never seen Deontay Wilder fighting on the back foot. And I don't think he had ever practiced for that.
And he, it's two different fighters. Like he was out of shape.
Wilder or Fury?
Fury in the first fight, out of shape. But also he took the man's best punch.
Is anything about being out of shape when you're heavyweight? I know. I'm just making out of it. I know. Like these dudes, some of the heavyweights be sloppy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but he came back better conditioned, better tuned up, and he had already felt the power.
Yeah.
He resurrected himself. So after that, you got the confidence there. I took the best shot and I got up.
Absolutely. I think, okay, I'm going to say this and we're going to go on a break. I think the count was slower. I recounted it. It was a slow count. And that's, that shows you it's a two-way thing, right? It shows you how amazing Deontay Wilder is. He was struggling. He knocked him down twice. But it also shows you how amazing Tyson Fury is. You got knocked down twice, but it was a draw.
Right.
The scores for a knockdown is high. So
dominant performance.
Yeah. As of that, people, stay tuned. We are taking a little bit of a break, and we'll be back. Hey, LT, who's fighting, man? So, LT.
Yo.
Tell me about it. That count. You gave me like a look like, okay, you wanted to say something about that count.
I mean, it sparked a memory of like, wow, you know what? It was a bit of a longer count. But the thing that I remember the most is Tyson Fury laying on the canvas, what appeared to be lifeless.
Yeah.
And then just clear.
Bro, his eyes rolled back.
And just getting up. And it's like, I'm playing it back in my head. I want to say Deontay Wilder looked over and gave the
he was celebrating.
I want to say he gave the cutthroat when he was walking away. And then he turned back around and seen him getting up. And that's all. It was just a replay in my head.
Yeah, man. I mean, to me, my recollection was he got like a 2-piece while he's going down. It was like one, and as he was going down, something caught him too. I think, and I saw his head roll back. Timber, right? Boom. The count starts. He's still down. I weirdly, I may have to get that video and play it right now. By around 5, he did like the Kane and the Undertaker thing.
Exactly.
Or 6, and boom. Lazarus.
Exactly.
Back from the dead, bro. And looked like he had taken a nap, like a power nap. He looked like he had energy.
Right? Like he
that was
rejuvenated.
Weird. That was weird. People wake up from that like their legs is done. Like Deontay was looking at him like, what is this? This is like Agent Smith versus Neo in the Matrix, bro. You beat the first Agent Smith, another agent comes in, bro. It's just like non-stop, bro. It was crazy.
You think he went back to the corner and was like, how long was I asleep?
He probably don't even remember. He probably even didn't know he was asleep. He probably was like, oh, damn. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. Like, damn.
Like a brand
what
new
am I
person.
fighting? And he's like, oh, Deontay Wilder? Oh, what round is this? Like, you know, that's the last round. All right, moving forward from that. Let's talk about some fights that are going to be coming. I'm going to throw at you some fights. I'm going to start with mixed martial arts, UFC. I know we should diversify and expand. We'll be talking about Bellator. We'll be talking about one fight? The ONE FC?
I know it's one.
We'll be talking about more other fights. We're going to expand ourselves to glory if we have to, depending on the reaction of the audience. But let's start with UFC. UFC have a fight this weekend. And I don't know if this podcast is going to come out this weekend. Maybe this is going to be something that we'll look back and be like, oh man, we were effing wrong. But we have Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland. I love Kevin Holland.
I like Holland too, yeah.
He lost his last fight very convincingly against old school Bronson. Oh, he got beat. Like just same way as one of my favorites, Stylebender got beat by Jan.
It happens
like,
in the sport.
He's a striker, and he was put on the ground, and he could not get up.
And
he was just mold.
I would say the beauty of the sport, but
check this out. He last fought March 20th, and he's fighting again April 10th. Is that a good look after you had that defeat, or is that he's trying to feed the family? I know boxers do that,
man,
but sometimes you have to take your time and register that loss.
That's like my one thing with the UFC, like, is they'll throw you in there like that back to back. I want to say the last person they did that, the one person that I felt really got a raw deal was Lewis, right out of Houston.
Oh, I know you're talking about Derek Lewis.
Derek Lewis. I mean, the man.
He has heavy hands too.
He had the fight of his life, and then a month later, now you're fighting for a world championship. So it's kind of like I can't say no to it. Yeah, but I really didn't have time to prepare.
That boy had a vicious knockout.
Especially in his post-fight interview, he was like, I need to do some cardio. You know what I'm saying?
He always needs to do cardio. One time he needed to use the bathroom or sometimes he said my nuts is itching. Like he always has something to say.
Right.
But anyways, the week after the 17th of April, there's a big one. Robert Whitaker versus Kevin Gosselin. That one. Whoever wins that one has to fight Stylebender. Both of them have fought Stylebender. Stylebender won, knocked out Robert Whitaker, and went the distance with Gosselin. That's going to be a knockout fight, I think. I like Whitaker a lot.
That's the one that...
I like Whitaker a lot.
All right, next one you going to let me say first because I don't want to sound like I'm agreeing with everything you're saying.
Okay. The next one. Usman versus Street Jesus. Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman. And this is on the 24th. What you think about that one?
It's kind of a toss-up. Usman, I think, from a overall standpoint,
he's on a streak.
I respect Masvidal's power. That would be the one where I just don't have a clear answer.
This is a sequel. They fought the first time. I think Masvidal had like 4 days to get prepared.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, last one. I don't want to butcher his name, but we have Reyes, Dominic Reyes, of course, versus Prochazka. His name is, I'll call him Jerry Prochazka. He's from Czech Republic. He has had one UFC fight, but his record in Japan and Russia, this dude is a beast. He has only 4 wins from submission. Other wins have been knockouts, and he's fought 34 times. Now I'll make sure, so I'm just not giving out just random strap facts. But here, he has 31 total fights, 27 wins, 24 by knockout, 2 submissions, 1 by decision, and 3 losses in every mixed martial arts franchise or association he has been involved in. Well, we know what Dominic Reyes does. Ex-football player turned UFC fighter. So
right. And I like how they threw him in there with that's a real test. There's no cupcake.
I mean,
coming out of the gate.
I mean, he's had tough fights. He has had Yan. He's had Jones, which we saw that fight.
Well, I mean,
he's had tough fights.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But dude is fighting. Dominic needs to be fighting higher. You don't bring a new guy in the UFC and just throw him into the lion's den. But that's the UFC.
That's the UFC way.
Gives you the fight that you want to see. It's not about let me build this fighter story. Let me build a Canelo Alvarez. Let's get a million fights in Mexico, and then he's 16, 18 with 26 fights, and he comes to the States. They're like, oh, who has he fought? And then he fights Floyd. But anyways, that's a story for another day, by the way. But
I mean, that's the good thing about the sport being at an all-time high in popularity is that there's more gyms open, there's more people training for it, because the business model really just runs through the employees.
Yes, sir. So let's switch from mixed martial arts to something that you love, boxing. This week in the UK, we have some we have one heavy hitting fight right now. Samuel Vargas versus Conor Ben, and this is going to be televised on DAZN. I don't know these fighters, but I'm gonna watch it.
I'm a little familiar with Vargas.
Samuel Vargas.
He gets a little bit of talk. So I'm interested.
Okay. I won't talk about fights this week because I don't see any fights that fancy my attention right now. But let's talk about Anderson Silva wanting to fight Chavez Jr. Julio Chavez Jr. is going to fight Anderson Silva to spite in a boxing match.
We talking about
June 19th.
We talking about 55 fights and then
boxing. Not UFC boxing.
We talking about Chavez that had 55 fights.
No, Junior.
Yeah.
He has 55. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Before he fought Canelo, and I don't know if he's fought. Well,
Before that, why am I even talking about this? Canelo fights around Cinco de Mayo. He fights on the 8th. He fights Billy Joe Sanders.
Billy Joe Sanders.
Yes, that's man. I slipped up. Thank you for like bringing me back. I thought this exhibition fight was something fun.
Actually, no. I mean,
both to the two worlds.
Well, here's the deal. Spider actually has a chance because I don't know.
He's not kicking.
Look.
Chavez is not a slouch. He's not. Chavez Jr. is not a slouch.
You don't think so?
I mean, he's good. If you could get into
is
the
he?
ring,
Because
I
watched some of his fights and I'm like, who is the 50 people he fought?
In Mexico.
Exactly. Like, who is these? Like, somebody go get him. I need to pull up some of these old tapes because I'm not impressed ever.
Okay, let's talk about Canelo Alvarez fighting.
And I'm gonna drive the point home because Canelo fought the man, never sat down on his stool the whole fight, and I felt like he was just toying with him.
But see, there was blood there. There's royalty versus the new royalty. Royalty meaning silver spoon versus I had to get it from the mud.
Yeah.
And it was a statement fight, remember. This is Cinco de Mayo. Yeah. Two of the biggest Mexican families besides
because he could have got him
Marquez.
He could have got him out of there way sooner.
He had to toy him. He had to do the Floyd Mayweather. He was playing with him. And it was bad. It was really bad.
And I give...
It was bad.
That performance, it either somebody's going to say, well, Canelo's just that good.
He is that good.
Against him, he was.
Who has Canelo not been good against besides Floyd Mayweather?
Let's fast forward because I want to.
Okay. Canelo versus Billy Joe.
Thank you for fighting somebody. He got a belt, right? Billy Joe Sanders got a belt.
Yeah.
I want to say you do. Thank you for fighting. Let's get some unification bouts.
I think so. He has a belt, but I can fact check.
I think so. I think he does.
Billy Joe.
I'm ready to see some unification bouts. I'm tired of seeing.
Do you think this was picked out for Canelo?
Listen,
Billy Joe.
At least
we want to see Canelo fight. We want to see Canelo fight the Charlo brothers.
I'm just happy.
I'm just saying it here. I may be wrong. I may not understand boxing as much. I want to see the Charlo brothers fight Canelo. Give the brothers a chance.
Yes.
Well, not a chance, but like let's see how we measure up.
Fight, but thank you for fighting somebody else who has a belt. Because there's other belts out there. Canelo don't have all of them. Caleb Plant got a belt.
Which fighter gave Canelo the hardest time besides Floyd Mayweather that you remember? And forget about Triple G's first fight, the second fight, because I get aggravated about Triple G versus Canelo. So let's avoid that. Let's avoid Triple G conversation right now. Let's talk about fighters that you think gave Canelo a hard time that Canelo handpicked. I'll give you one. Jacobs.
Oh yeah.
Danny.
See. And I want fighters to be busier, you know? Be busier.
Canelo has flair. He has style. He got power. He has accuracy. And he's a very patient motherfucker.
Yeah.
Patient. He could get you out there he could get you out of there if he wants to. But one thing the Triple G fight, and I don't want to bring this up, reminded me that size does matter.
Oh yeah.
But again, the irony is the next fight when he fought the Ukrainian, what's his name? The guy who fought Andre Ward.
Kelly.
What's his name? Dude that he knocked out with the hook, like devastating. And it was a fight after UFC had to postpone that because the zone was not getting the looks that they want.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he put him to, and that was a big dude. Canelo stepped up to fight that dude, and that dude gave Andre Ward problems in the first fight. Second fight, Andre Ward figured him out and gave him the TKO.
I want to say Kelly Pavlik, but that's not the name.
I'll tell you his name.
It is Kelly Pavlik.
Wait, no. It was we know him. We saw him versus Andre Ward, bro. Like it was one of the most devastating knockouts I've seen Canelo. I mean, there's Amir Khan fight. Kovalev, man. Sergey. Kovalev, yeah. That shit, that fight in particular kind of took my whole understanding of Canelo, like like big fighters make Canelo wants to like fight smaller dudes, like you know the whole thing of Canelo always like Canelo walks around at 180 or 190 and he goes down to fight little dudes because he's bullied.
Listen.
He went and whooped. He beat Kovalev, bro. He beat Kovalev. That's when I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to hold my reservation on my idea on that.
No, he looks very impressive. Like,
bro,
I don't want to take nothing from him, but
Triple G kind of like put that seed in my mind, like
fight somebody, unify the belt, unify the weight class. I think you can't tell me you fighting for money.
I think it's a money deal.
You fight these lower fights for money.
Yeah, I think it's a
why?
money.
Just because the zone cashing you out?
I think it's a money deal.
Is that it? Make it make sense to me.
I think it's a money deal. Okay.
Is it just because it's two Mexicans fighting and they gonna generate a big revenue?
What do you think about David Haney?
Up and coming.
Yeah. That division, we talk about David Haney. We talk about Ryan Garcia. We talk about who else is there. There is another person. There's Tank. I think Tank has some issues with, you know. He has issues with the law enforcement and stuff. I don't know. I don't know how that is going. 130?
We're
talking about that division, David Haney division.
Because that's
with Tank, Ryan Garcia, and and Teofimo Lopez. I forgot.
Teofimo.
Yes.
I watched Teofimo's come up. It's loaded right now.
Is Lomachenko still a contender in that division too?
Why not? Sure.
Okay.
We throw him in there.
Okay. You know he's 32?
We're not talking
31.
You didn't mention Shakur Stevens.
Oh, Shakur Stevens.
That's the one that's
Olympian too.
That's the one that's head and shoulders above the rest to me as far as his polish.
I like David Haney.
I like him too.
I like him.
But as far as polish goes, it's Shakur, and Shakur is different. Now, I mean, we in the present, so yeah, they're all down there.
I like Teofimo. I like Teofimo Lopez.
What's happening right now is, and this is my opinion, you got all those guys down there at 130, and they're really bigger than that.
Yeah.
And Tank is gonna be like the first one. He's like, he gonna be tired of it, and Floyd ain't gonna be able to keep him down there no longer. But they down there, they're not gonna fight each other while they down there.
Right.
I think they just waiting for Crawford to get out the way.
Yeah.
Or somebody's gonna get the opportunity.
Some bottom feeder stuff. Like,
somebody's gonna
like some like
it is because you have all of them down there. You have Crawford is like the ceiling above them.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's actually 147 because there's a weight class above them.
I like between them and Crawford. I like Teofimo. I like Teofimo a lot. What he did with Triple G was.
You mean
No, so not Triple G. Sorry, Lomachenko. Lomachenko. Because Lomachenko
is dominant.
I mean, one of the. His amateur career is documented. Like his professional, he's not fought a lot, but like his amateur career is dominated. I mean, it's documented. But like looking back at it, Teofimo destroyed him. Lomachenko looked small. I mean, but anyways, I don't want to even get into that because that division is stacked. That 130. Let's talk about. Let's go into the heavyweights. By the way, before I say that, on the 29th, David Haney fights Jorge Linares. I don't want to say his name wrong. Okay. Linares.
Probably Linares.
But let's talk about the heavyweights. In the UK, one of my favorite fighters in the heavyweights that, was once a champion, Joseph Parker. People don't talk about him, but he's a problem. And I wish everybody just pushed him out of the way and added my boy Andy Ruiz.
Let's go ahead and get it out the way that the best.
He gave AJ a problem.
Let me just say this: the best heavyweights ain't in the U.S. right now. They're not.
Okay.
And that's why it's not a popular division.
Yeah.
But here.
So Joe Parker fights May 1st, and he fights another good heavyweight. I mean, he's battle proven. He's kind of like a old guard guy, Derek Chisora.
Mm-hmm.
Old guard slugger, likes to mix doesn't fight he doesn't do the distance. He's a mixer. He's been knocked out cold by Dylan White before. I think he's been knocked out by a few people, but Chisora versus Joe Parker.
Two dinosaurs slugging. You ever seen two kimono dragons fight? They just
that's
against each
a funny thing. That's the enjoyment and excitement about the heavyweight division is forget your tactics. If I catch you, I catch you.
Right.
Forget how good you are. Forget Tyson Fury. You're good. You know how to move. You know how to stick and move. That one Deontay Wilder punch put you down. That's what we pay in that pay-per-view, because we want to see somebody go to night-night. Talking about that, shout out to the heavyweight champion of the UFC, Francis Ngannou, for doing what we already knew. He was already the unbelted champ. People that know. If you know, you know. You know, like if you know, you know. But in this case, the heavyweight is very tricky, like in boxing, because there's so many up and comings that, you know, one day you talk about the Nigerian guy. What's his name?
Jeffe? I know.
Freak. What's his name? The up and coming Nigerian.
I think it's a Jeffe. Let me see.
I think it's Jeffe. I
think so.
And how he's been putting people to sleep, but when you fight real fighters, it kind of like balances out. I've seen another dude called
Efe Ajagba.
Ajagba.
So we was like kind of Ajagba, we both had a piece of it.
Ajagba. And I'm seeing people like there's also going to be another heavyweight fight that same day, Saturday, May 1st. Old guard fighter in the heavyweight division, Chris Arreola. I hate saying his word, but he's fighting Andy Ruiz. So Andy Ruiz is back in the mix, and it's going to be on Fox Sports.
And see,
it's a pay-per-view. So that's May 1st is stacked with some heavyweight fights.
And these are the fights that I want to see now.
So, thank you for watching Who's Fighting. Stay tuned for next week when we talk about our